Masechet Menahot Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph, 11 lines down. So we previously mentioned that the pasuk excluded that blood does not need to be salted. So now the reason why we saying blood does not need to be salted is because of the pasuk, seemingly. Halacha, but without that, you would have thought the blood would need to be salted. The Gemara says, but once it's salted, it's no longer blood, and therefore you cannot throw it on the mizbeach. Blood was cooked. There's no isur of eating it anymore. If it was salted, also not considered blood anymore. Rabbi himself said, sacrificial limbs that are roasted and then brought on, not considered for Hashem. So we see from here that if it's salted, blood is salted, it's not considered blood. So why would you need a pasuk to even tell me that if technically it knocks it out just by salting it? The Gemara says, you would have thought put a minute amount of salt, not enough to make the blood pasul. Mashman therefore Torah said no blood at all. Gufa, we said earlier, cook the blood, not chayav. He repeated it. I asked him, someone hardened the blood and then ate it. Or let's say someone liquefied halib, which is fats, isur fats, and then swallowed it. Hayav, you're still chayav. So we see, even if you cook blood, you're chayav. Whereas lakash is not a sira. Kan shekefah ba'or, in Rabbi Zera, Za'iri, he burnt it, he cooked it with fire. Kan shekefah ba'hama, in Brighton's case, with sunlight. Ba'or lahadar, blood that's done by fire does not go back to the same consistency. That's why it's pasul. Ba'hama hadar, but by sun, if it gets hardened by the sun, then it is chayav because it's considered blood. Even by the sun, let's say that once it's pushed aside, once it's at one point it's ineligible for the korban, it should remain that way. I'll prove that concept. What if blood congealed and ate it? He says once it's pushed off, it's pushed off. So Ishtar, Rabbi, don't know how to answer that. Malai said, let me give you an answer. Over here, the brightest case, is want the blood for the outer hataot. And kam hataot and the Za'iri's case is about inner hataot. So outer hataot is still stayed kasher, and the second inner does not. Amari says yes. Rava agrees. Ad kartan milted Amar Bechizai. Remind me what Bechizai said. Dam shekar shba'ataot. Someone ate the blood of the outer hatat after it was congealed. Chayav v'chayav. V'lakach v'natan rachna, because pasuk says take and place. V'hai bar laki chantinahu. This dried blood is able to be taken and placed. V'hatot b'nolach, but he did the inner blood. Batur. Why? But Taval v'hizam rachna, the Torah mentioned dipping and sprinkling. V'hai la bar b'tlav has it, and this one's not, and therefore inner bloods will not be chayav when it is congealed. But Rabbi Zemar also said, even inner blood you're chayav. Because technically it's eligible for outer chataot. Therefore, someone ate the congealed blood of a donkey. Technically this type of blood is able to be eaten for the outer chataot. The Gemara says, Dam ben lach ben yavesh hoset. If someone has blood on his body, whether it's moist or dry, it's a chatitza for a mikveh. The question is metiveh, it's considered separation and not eligible for mikveh. Metiveh, the question is, Adam v'hadiyav v'advash alav, blood, ink, honey, and milk, yaveshin hotzini, if they're dry, considered chatitza. Allahin, but it's wet, it's not a chatitza. Question again, Za'iri. The Gemara says, la kasha had disrich. In the case of Za'iri, where it's considered chatitza, where it's sticky blood, that's considered separation. Had lasrich, in the case of Braita, it's not sticky blood, that's why it's not separation. Whereas timlach lama ayata. So how come pasuk had to use a double ashon of B'melech timlach, salt it with salt? Why? The Tana Brite says, B'melech with salt, yachol tivonehu, even it's considered like tivonehu. Explain what that means. Tomorrow the pasuk says timlach. Now, timlach, only mention the word timlach, yachol b'melech, even something that's salty, like salt water or brine. Tomorrow the pasuk says b'melech with salt. V'lo tashbit melach, and you should not discontinue salt. Have melach she'ena shovetet, you should put salt that's not discontinued. Yani it's available all seasons, all year long. Be'ezah, what's that? Zu melach sidumit. This is fine salt, sidumit. Have you know that if you can't find the fine sidumoid salt, that you could bring the istokrit salt, which is very thick, coarse salt. Takriv kol should bring anything. Takriv l'hamakom, even any place. Takriv afil Shabbat, you can even bring it on Shabbat. Yani you can bring salt from outside Eretz Yisrael even on Shabbat. Takriv afil b'zma, even outside, even while tameh. My tivoneo, what do you mean you salt like tivoneo? Maybe you might think that it should be like thick salt, like you're able to make kedevin batit, like even like it's thick salt so heavy that you can make like bricks, like straw. So it's a lot of salt. ما بيا هي أخي هذا الكيس يتبوننه مبعلش من يتبوننه not يتبونه. The Gemara says بيا يا خل يا عسل كبير. Maybe you have to put like layers of salt, like breaking, like structuring. ما says يا أخي that's the case يتبوننه مبعلش. Use the word بنيان. The Gemara says ما بيا خل تبونه. ما تبونه what's تبونه؟ ما بيا يا خل يتهنه بطعم كبيرة. Maybe you should put salt just to put a flavor. ما بس تنلاخ be generous with the salt. كيف هذا what do you do? Maybe hybrid bring sacrifice limit تنين العميخ put salt on it. فوزمه في خبر تنين العميخ. Flip it over after salting and put salt on that other side. وما then you put it up. ما بيا بخين دينا also when you're salting the pot to remove blood. That's how you also do the salting for the meats. Then we're done. ميلاش عقبيها عيفر. Salt on top of the meat. معالين بو it's considered مئلا. If you take it you're خياب مئلا. It's خياب في stealing from بيت ميداش. شعقبين بكيفش في salt on the زبيخ. Should be Rosh so on the ramp of or on top of in while in Boston considered stealing. I'm gonna have Matana, I'm not gonna I know this. Vika after the Hashem fish how can be Ali Melech Behu Tam Allah Hashem. It mentions salt as part of the Allah, that's where Yachia. Tananatam. Al Melech Alatim regarding the Betamata salt and wood, Shiyuha Kohanim no need to him the Kohanim can benefit from it. Marshmo Loshan a little bit refers to their korbanot of Achila, but they can't just eat it. Look. Maybe you might think they're able to use the betamtar salt to salt their mizbeach, to salt their korbanot. Well, regarding that eating, Achilat koshim is referring to able to use the betamtar salt to eat their sacrificial foods. Now, why would you teach me that? Because if we know they're able to use it for the hides, which the kohanim get to use, so of course you're able to use it for the eating of the koshim. The Gemara says, as Hanabar says, how do you know this? Then said that Ataomer. The salt was placed in 3 places in the Midrash. Salt chamber, obviously. On the ramp of the salt chamber. That's where they salt the sacrificial hides. The ramp. That's where they salt the limbs. That's where they salt the komet and Menahot all these Menahot and the bird Olah. So we see that you put the salt in the sacrificial hides, which is for the Kohanim. So for sure able to eat it. The Gemara says, their korbanot, to eat their korbanot. Was eating achila the cholin, able to use salt for the cholin food, non-kadosh foods. The Gemara says cholin pshita. If it's cholin, for sure. My ba'ahatam, what is to tell me that they can't eat the cholin? Why would I need to teach you that? Why would they be cholin? But the Gemara says afagav damar more, because why? Even the Barta says yo chelu, you shall eat sheyachu ima cholin truma. You're able to eat the cholin and truma together with the sacrificial foods. It gives you extra appetite if you mix and match foods. Even that's the case, you still should not put the kodesh salt there. 1 second. I can also prove it to you logically. If you would have thought Milo Korban, what does it mean that you're able to put the salt for the Korban? Then Loach means to put salt there for the Korbanot. Tama that Betin sounds like only because Betin's allowing you to do it. How Betin low, but Betin did not allow no Vashta. Now why would you think that the permitting the salting of the Korbanot? That sounds like Bnei Israel would also be able to use their salt. But not for Kohanim. Because we know that the Yisraelim are able to use the salt for their korbanot, and now they can say that the Kohanim can't. It says Yachol. Maybe you might think if someone says I'm bringing mincha, he has to bring salt from his house. Someone has to provide the levana. Bedinu, logically, Pastor says bring salt and mincha. Also mentions bring mincha and levana. Which is like levana you bring from your house. So you bring salt from your house, seemingly. Maybe you should think the other way. Just like it says like mincha salt. It also mentions mincha and wood. Which is like wood is from the Bet HaMikdash. So too, the salt should be from the Bet HaMikdash. So which one we do? Which one is more comparable? Then in do we compare salt, which is used by all korbanot, and also wood like all korbanot? Don't bring me a proof from Levana. Because it's only mentioned by Menahot. Or Karazuma, the opposite. Maybe compare things that are brought from the same vessel, salt and levana. Don't bring your proof from wood. It's not brought with the mincha. The pasuk says, "Berit melach olam hi," the eternal brit of salt. Ulano also mentioned by the lechem panim. Me'ed bnei Israel bid olam. Malalam mishal sibor like over there, but by the panim breads from the community funds. The Mikdash afkam mishal sibor regarding the salt. So we see from here that bnei Israel are not allowed to use salt for the Mikdash for their korbanot. So are allowed to use salt for their korbanot. So for sure the Kohanim. Amali Ravi Amar the Chilin Vashe. Hachi Kamar of Shisha Bered of Idi. Lo Nitzecha Ela Ben Bukhri. This halacha that the Kohanim can get benefit from the salt is only regarding Ben Bukhri, because he holds that the Kohanim were not required to do Mahasit Shekel. The Hamash says, Amar Bida Ha'id Ben Bukhri Be'avne. He testified, Kol Kohen Sheshokel in Achote. Whoever, any Kohen that gives a Mahasit Shekel is not considered a sin, meaning he's not required to, but if he does, it's not considered sinning. Amar Yochanan Ben Zakkai. Lo ki ella kol kohen she'eno shokel chote. No, any kohen who does not give it has sinned, meaning they are required. But why? Because the kohanim learn the pasuk for themselves, that they're not required. Every mincha of a kohen shall be burnt, not to be eaten. And the problem is, if they were to give machzeh shekel, any community korban that we bought would have to be theirs. And therefore, since technically the Omer Korban and the loaves and the panim breads, these community-wide Korban Menachat are purchased with the Masid Shekel, how can we eat it? It must be burnt. So therefore, it must be the Berachana Chayav. Since the coin is not required to bring the Masid Shekel in the first place, when he brings it, it's considered a sin. They come out of Cholin Nazara, suddenly it's bringing Cholin Nazara. Question. The Gemara says, no, they're not bringing it physically in. They're giving it, and they're wanted to give it for Bnei Israel, and therefore it is considered Cholin already, and therefore it's considered Kadosh and not Cholin. The Gemara says it's okay. You might think, according to Ben Bukhri, when Hashem allows the right for Mahasit Shekel for salt, maybe only for Bnei Israel who are contributing the Mahasit Shekel. The Kohanim but Kohanim are not providing and therefore Hashem did not give them right for the Mahasit Shekel. Therefore, it's not teaching you that Batin is allowing the Kohanim to use the salt for their korbanot. So basically, we brought all that for Mordechai to knock out the proof of Ravina that said earlier that Batin is making a stipulation, the condition for Ben Bukhri, and Ravina says it's not true. Because the Bnei Israel is able to use the salt because of this special Tanai. While Kohanim can do so Bnei Israel can use it without this condition, and Kohanim can only do so with the condition. However, Ben Bukhri holds there's no difference. There's a difference between the Kohanim and Bnei Israel. Since Bnei Israel are donating the money for the salt, therefore they can use the salt. Kohanim not donating, they're not going to sell.